Hi guys. So again, the presentation that we are going to discuss today is about designing your search and reporting your search strategy, as we discussed towards the end of the other presentation. So most of you should have some idea of how you search the literature. Searching literature start from getting an idea of what is sensitive and what is a specific term. If you're getting really limited results on your subject matter from PubMed, it means that you're basically have very limited uh, understanding of the subject matter because you may be putting too specific terms uh, to search the literature, or you are just not searching at the right place. There has to be a fine balance between sensitive and specific searches in order to give you good results. But like we have done with the other PICO table, we are going to do some real searching. So this is, first of all, I'm pretty sure that you should be aware of PubMed, PUBMED, PubMed.com. If you type this in your browser, you'll go to National Library of Medicine. PubMed is basically, when I was out of school, working in my first job as a hospital pharmacist, we have to actually looked into the actual CDs for Medline. But nowadays, PubMed has just changed the whole game. So PubMed is a collection of Medline as well as other databases. So it is quite a comprehensive database to look into medical literature. You don't have to do it. So if you have other sources of looking at primary literature, you can do that. I'll show you through the actual slides, and then I can actually take you to the PubMed myself in the browser, and we can discuss how we have done it. But basically, this was my search term. So in that case, I know I'm dealing with albumin, or I want to find out about albumin, and I know I am dealing with ascites. So all I did is, if I use this ternication and where I use joining with a capital N, these days is even work with a small n, because that's what PubMed has done. Is PubMed is kind of a Google of Medline, so it make searching so intuitive, so easy, so practical, and like common that it's very hard to not find the evidence these days. But let's see. So if I put albumin and ascites, terlipressin plus albumin, no, too complicated. We are not dealing with multiple things. Refractory ascites, first presentation. Yeah, maybe survey of treatment approaches of malignant ascites, improvement in nutritional status, assessment of liver function. Well, refractory ascites as the first presentation is really interested. Uh, None of these terms are directly relevant to me, although they are like about 2000 papers. So this is very broad term, but I just want to highlight what is in the whole screen, and as you are going to see in your own browser, that there are also titles with your search terms. So sometimes they actually take you to these titles, and these are the free full text articles available in PubMed Central. So whenever you are studying PubMed, you can actually find a lot of free full text paper that you don't even need to log into UTAS library to get the hold of it. You can just get it from PubMed, and they can sometimes give you a very good information about it. But if you look at these titles, I think they are more related to what we are looking at it. Now this is related to diagnosis, so I won't go there. Serum ascites, albumin gradient in different. The use of human albumin for the treatment of ascites in patients with liver look extremely relevant to me. So let's see if that's the case. So there was nothing here, but when I look into the related search term on the right hand side in the column, I find this. The use of human albumin for the treatment of ascites in patients with liver cirrhosis. item of safety, facts, controversy, and perspective. Now, this is an excellent choice where you can go, it look like a review paper, is going to have individual studies that have studies albumin. You can go into that, you can identify some of those studies, and then you can basically assess the quality of that. Now, you guys can say that I've chosen the easiest case available, but that's not the case. I just choose it because I think I can relate it very nicely. It's a short case with a specific aspect, so we can actually discuss it in much more details, and I can provide my input into each level, and that's why I choose the simplest case available in the whole bunch. But let's make it more complicated. So for example, um, um, if you are not finding information in the first go, so you type something like this broad, either it has too much information or um, there's nothing, then how you're going to do. It is really important to know that you are studying at a postgraduate level, right? So you need to show some initiative. You need to do some problem solving. You need to work a little bit outside the books and guidelines to basically develop these skills. Now the skills of finding evidence is like it's an ongoing learning thing. I'm still learning how to search literature more efficiently. So if you're not finding information, put a discussion board item. Ask your colleague, hey, I can't find any information. Uh, am I looking something wrong? If you can't find any answer, cannot find any suggestion from your colleagues, throw me an email. I'll look into myself. Most of the cases that I have put into these assignments, regardless of which unit you are studying, we have done the literature review before developing the case. So we have started from the back. So we have starting from the end and then created the case, and that's what you do when you develop this case. But I think all you need is a little bit more practice. Desmopressin use in hematological malignancy or APML bleeding case was really, really difficult one to find evidence. There was evidence, as I told you, that we did have evidence to base the case on. But basically, I put a case in, and you're still going to see it in one of the other units. The good thing about this approach that we are using in this semester is that we are selecting a specific case at a later stage for assessing your skills. So we have a luxury to discuss almost every case because we are not releasing the actual assessment of the case. So that will be released at a later date, and that may or may not be the same question as you have for practice. So this is to make sure that we are testing you on a broad set of skills and not just giving you a spoon feeding of only do those four cases, finish assignment one, then move to the next one. So we are in that format where we just make it so simplistic in approach. We may not basically encourage you to learn more about disease states and the use of medications in disease state. So that's why one of the cases that you are going to see in other practice unit is related to the APML related bleeding, or maybe in this unit I can't really recall exactly which unit it was, but it's a very uncommon use of desmopressin. So there is a very small number of studies that is available for this. But this what sometimes give you an idea that there's no evidence whatsoever. So you can say that, oh, I couldn't find any evidence, so that's why this is my answer. But what we want you to try different search approaches. So for example, I put desmopressin and APML as I did in the first one, and I got nothing. I got zero relevant studies. So what to do? Then I do desmopressin and blood cancer. Now, this is really, really broad you can go, and look at the beauty of PubMed that blood cancer is like, a common term. it's used by patients, it's used by people in community. But if you actually go that broad, it will include everything which is out there. And I managed to find out, two references, and I look into management of bleeding complication of hematologic malignancies, management of menorrhagia associated with chemotherapy. Now, the first one is an adverse drug related, and it's very specific bleeding from the site of bleeding, while we are having a generalized bleeding in that case. So I actually go much broader, which is management of bleeding complications. So I click on the related citation. I say what else I can find out. And then I start finding out more information about it. So if you go into detail of this review, it talks about other study. You click on related citation, it talks about more studies, and then you can actually get way more information in order to use the same thing in like finding out evidence which is related to you. Now, it may be very small amount of studies. It will not be very well studies. So, well, that's fine. It's not a heavily studied area, but at least you are getting something. So in your first case, albumin use in cirrhotic patient versus desmopressin use in APML bleeding. Uh, this is very less studied compared to the other ones. So another useful thing is that if you look at from the disease point of view, liver failure is really, really common. So, within hospital setting, you have like at least 5, 6 patients, 10 patients admitted to your wards for different presentation related to chronic liver failure. So definitely you are going to find a much more number of studies relevant to it than compared to just having a bleeding complication in a small subset of hematological malignancies. Um, you also have a lot of confounders available here. You have a number of variables which are affecting, because desmopressin cannot be a prime intervention because it's not the only treatment option available when patient is bleeding with um, hematologic malignancy, receiving multiple chemotherapy, other medications. So you can't just go that broad into it. So you need to have a complementary approach to it, and then you need to see, is there an evidence which is available for desmopressin? Uh, is it harmful? Is it not harmful? It is at least not, if not showing significant benefit, at least not harming the patient, and then you can adjust your response to it. So I'm not going to talk about what you should put in a response. That's a separate presentation. But what I'm telling you that sometime you won't have a direct evidence of efficacy. Now, searching literature can be tricky. Despite having PubMed an excellent tool and quite friendly, some people struggle with it. So I would suggest that there are tutorials within PubMed. Look at that. You can directly export all of the search that you do in PubMed into an EndNote library. So you can create an account in PubMed, or even if you don't create an account, you can save your searches at least for a couple of hours of no activity. So you can always go back, or you copy paste, or you can email you the file, or you can save the search terminologies, and then you can basically export everything that you have done in PubMed into your EndNote. Now, EndNote, you may struggle with searching unless you are very good at searching. So, for example, most of the time I directly open an EndNote library and go with it because I want to do things very quickly for my research proposals and for my grant applications. But if I am a student who is new to evidence-based medicine, I would actually go to PubMed because it has a lot of useful link. It has a lot of useful suggestion. It gives you related citations. It's just a better tool to search your evidence. So um, make yourself more familiarized with it. There are videos within the unit under the resources, learning resources, that you can focus on. And there are also some link towards the end of the presentation that I can show you. The second part of this talk is how you're going to report and how you're going to select the study. So I will encourage you to look into the assessment rubric whenever you are actually attempting an assignment. But it's really important for you to understand that assignment one will not only ask you to retrieve studies and use them in your answer, it will also ask you to report that how you come up to selecting a particular set of studies for your answer to the answerable question. Uh, and then you will be assessing the quality of it in a brief sentences, looking at whether the evidence that you are using is of a high quality. Now, reporting. Reporting is very simple to summarize how you have search things. So you put your search terms, you say how many papers you have done. Selecting is more, complicated and required a lot of judgment, where you explain that, how you end up being left with 4 or 5 or 6 studies that you think are the most useful to your question. So how did you screen those studies? How did you come to the conclusion that this is the research that you are going to use? Because this is how you shorten your spectrum from, say, 1,000 article to, say, 5 articles, that these are the articles that I've chosen. Why you have chosen? You look at their titles, you look at their abstract, you find that it's of a better journal, so you expect a high quality before you start doing the formal quality assessment. But you need to give me a justification. You don't have to have a scientific justification. You don't have to draw theories and develop formulas to narrow it down. You just need to give me a couple of lines in explaining this is how I did it, this is how I find it, and this is how I summarize it and select it. These are the studies I'm using, and this is how I reach to those studies. Now, these are the link to resources where you can look into different tutorials and explain you exactly a lot of things. There's a website from the pioneers of structure-based evidence. There's a lot of link that you can use to study, but basically in terms of the quality assessment, we are going to give a separate presentation to explain you that how the quality assessment works in this particular course, and how you're going to basically do a quality assessment for your studies in a separate talk, and that will be the next one.